What's happening there, guys, and welcome back to another video. Pete Davidson is making a lot of moves recently, and his latest might result in him appearing in a blockbuster movie. In this video, we're taking a look at Pete Davidson starring in Fast and Furious. Number 5, appearing in Fast and Furious. Pete Davidson is one of the most famous comedians on the planet, but that has only recently been the case. He's been in a lot of headlines lately due to the fact that he's in a high-profile relationship with Kim Kardashian. He recently went on a trip with her to London, but that trip wasn't just about having a good time with Kim. This is because, reportedly, during that trip, he signed a deal to star in the upcoming Fast and Furious movie. This is probably going to be the last movie in this franchise, which is why the people making it are going all out and hiring the biggest celebrities they can find. But there's been a lot of backlash towards him joining the cast, so let's talk about why that is. Number 4, joking about Paul Walker. One of the biggest tragedies to have occurred for the movie industry and the world as a whole was when Paul Walker passed away after being in a car accident. He had been in a car with a fellow racer, and the car unfortunately lost control and crashed into a tree in 2013. This sent shockwaves in the fan base, and everyone, including the cast themselves, was left devastated by all of this. In what should have been completely unrelated news, Justin Bieber had a roast on Comedy Central in 2015, a couple of years after Paul's passing. During this roast, Pete Davidson was also present. While making jokes about Justin Bieber, he chose to make one that involved Paul Walker. He joked that in the past year, Justin had gotten arrested for drag racing and that unfortunately, he hadn't been with Paul Walker. After the audience had a very strong response to this joke, he quit back by saying that Paul Walker was doing great and that he had a movie coming out. As you can imagine, even if these jokes were made 2 years after Paul's passing, they certainly crossed a line. Number 3, resistance towards his appearance. After news broke out that Pete Davidson was going to be joining the cast of the Fast and Furious movie, there were a lot of rumors that came out which mentioned the fact that some of the cast was not too pleased with him coming on board. After the events of Justin's roast, you can understand why they would feel like they do. Many of the members of the Fast and Furious franchise have been working with one another for multiple decades, so when someone insults one of them, there's bound to be a feeling of animosity towards them. When Vin Diesel repeatedly says that they're all a family in the movie, he's not just saying that for the sake of the movie, and they're actually like that in real life as well. Some of them even want Pete to publicly apologize for that joke. There are many examples of them going above and beyond for each other, so let's look at one of them. Number 2, close ties among the cast. If there's one thing that could pretty easily convey just how close the cast was and still is with one another, it's the fact that Paul Walker named Vin Diesel as the godfather of his daughter. Vin took this title very seriously and immediately went to comfort her after her father's passing, but that wasn't the moment he truly shined as a godfather. Paul Walker's daughter got married a while ago, and in her wedding, it was none other than Vin Diesel who walked her down the aisle. This role is usually reserved for the father, so you can see just what kind of role Vin plays in her life. This is just one example of how tight-knit the cast are and why they're having a difficult time with Pete potentially joining them for their last movie. Number 1, Vin talking about Paul. There have been multiple examples of how protective the cast are towards each other, and those feelings only grew stronger after Paul Walker departed from this world. After 4 years had passed since Paul's passing, Vin Diesel was still feeling the pain of not having him by his side. He said as much during an interview where he was asked about making a movie without Paul. He responded by saying that making a movie without Paul wasn't the hard part, it was actually living without Paul. He said that whenever he needed advice about something, he would always call Paul Walker, but he couldn't do that anymore. All this makes one think of how he's reacting to the news of Pete Davidson joining him in the movie. So these were some of the details of Pete Davidson starring in a Fast and Furious movie. This movie has been going through a lot of turmoil recently, so here's hoping that everything works out in the end. So let me know your thoughts about Pete Davidson potentially joining the cast of the possible last Fast and Furious movie in the comments down below. If you enjoyed our content, then let us know by smashing that like button, and if you want more videos like this going forward, then all you have to do is subscribe to our channel and be sure to press that bell icon so you don't miss out on being notified of these videos in the future. Until next time, take care and goodbye.